The missing link in the lore, a Genshin Impact theory, by none other than HYTE. Let's get into it.
The stellar black body Ungien brought back to the Frost Moon might be one of the most interesting and important entities ever introduced in a world quest.
Oh, this is going to be about the frickin' stellar black body, dude. Oh my god. Which I imagine being like, you ever seen Venom, like the symbiote? Kind of like that. Or, have you ever seen, what's that stuff called? The spiky water that's like magnetized? Ferrofluid, yeah, ferrofluid. I imagine it looking like ferrofluid. But I also like Little Red Hood's art depiction of it on Twitter as well. I replied to it, bro, I love Little Red Hood's art style. It's so good.
And I'm not saying that because I think the stellar black body is one of those this changes everything kind of dealios. Because it doesn't actually change anything.
No,
but
it's just an alien.
What it does do is simplify our understandings of the connections between major world-building elements like Irminsul, the Firmament, Visions, and even the Abyss. And I think those connections are definitely worth talking about.
Wait, Visions? Okay, well now I'm hooked.
And of course, as always, we will start things off by talking about everything we actually know for sure so far.
Which, to be honest, I don't even think is that much.
The stellar black body is an information-based life form that was found by the dragon researcher Ungien while he was tracking down a signal it was emitting from somewhere in the depths of space.
While his wife was just chilling back home, by the way.
After discovering the stellar black body...
In fact, I said that sounded really bad. I actually kind of meant the other way around. His wife was at home working, worrying, in frickin' Ungian's circle. Why did he get all the credit for that, by the way? I feel like it was very much a joint effort. Why is it just Ungian's circle?
Ungien decided to fuse with it before returning to the Frost Moon, presumably so he could overcome the language barrier between them, which would allow the other dragons to understand the stellar black body's message. This decision effectively led to Ungien's death, but it also resulted in the creation of a brand new life form that was neither Ungien nor the stellar black body.
Yeah, the frickin', well, the big Sealy thing.
This new entity was a round black creature.
Oh no, of course, the stellar black body. Sorry, I'm skipping a few things here.
Covered in spikes with an iridescent sheen that emitted filament-like ejecta from its main body.
Which, you know what? You know what somebody said, and I really hope Ashikai brings it up here. I know I'm pausing a lot, bro. We're like a minute in, but still. Stellar black body. Black spiky thing. Based off of information. An informational life form. Do you know where I'm going? There is one situation which I love, Ashikai loves, and a lot of other people really love. AI, more like AL. Al-Akhbar, bro. King Deshret. The black eye in the cutscene, bro. The spiky thing. Oh my god.
And at some point prior...
There's got to be some kind of, like... There's no coincidence in Teyvat, bro.
To their return to the Frost Moon, whatever substance this life form was made of coated the exterior of the spaceship, rendering said ship nearly undetectable.
True.
After the other dragons recovered the Ungien black body entity from the spaceship and successfully received and decoded its message, they began researching the mysterious properties of this bizarre new life form, and that led to the development of two very distinct and very important projects, Project Lunar Veil and McGee's Getty's unnamed Genesis project.
I forgot about McGee's Getty's project.
Lunar Veil sought to utilize the apparent cloaking properties of the stellar black body.
I think the fact that the stellar black body had the properties of cloaking is already very interesting, and I hope she dives more into that specific part of it. The Lunar Veil and everything to do with it and the cloaking systems, dude. Oh my goodness. I feel like we're gonna learn so much more about that even in Snezhnaya. Not necessarily just because cryo is preservation and they're preserving the old world and stuff, but I think it's gonna have a lot to do with it. I think Snezhnaya is gonna really dive headfirst into dragon lore. Not like the AWP dragon lore from Counter-Strike, but like actual dragon lore. I think the moon was very much a prequel to Snezhnaya, just like the previous summer events have been. I think the moon was ours this time.
To do this, researchers like Lucilim spliced the genetic data of the stellar black body with that of the moonshade trees, then stimulated those trees with Archeolune energy until the tree began to expel black body matter from its branches, forming a thin visual barrier that rendered anything beneath it nearly invisible to the outside. Generally speaking, the dragon researchers believed this invisibility cloak, so to speak, could hide the moon and potentially Teyvat from being spotted by unknown hostile entities in the depths of space. But as they were building out the means to generate a lunar veil big enough to cover the entire moon, the Heavenly Principal's spaceship crash-landed in Lucilim's laboratory, causing the lunar veil generator to explode. The dissipated stellar black body and Archeolune energy formed a massive lunar sea, which later became the seedbed for all life forms on the moon.
God, it is beautiful too, dude.
But more on that later. Now, the the results of Project Lunar Veil were later surrendered to the invading Heavenly Principles, who appears to have used it to create the false sky firmament that surrounds Teyvat. Not just because the firmament and the Lunar Veil have a lot in common, but also because it was always the intention for Project Lunar Veil to be scaled up enough to cover the entire planet, so this progression of events just makes sense. But we'll talk about that more later as well. Now, the other stellar blackbody project never got an official name as far as I know, so I've dubbed it the Genesis Project on account of it exploring the stellar blackbody's biology.
Makes sense.
This project was led by Eungien's partner.
This is interesting. For those of you that haven't seen this yet, this will be very interesting. This, I'm pretty sure, is the stuff that you get from like the data terminal section of the moon that you only get for exploring a certain amount. I've already looked into it because low head and not enough time to explore yet, so.
Maggie's Getty, and her research into the blackbody's genetic information was actually used in Project Lunar Veil as the means to modify the moonshade trees. But her research and motivation for it went a lot deeper than just Project Lunar Veil. Maggie's Getty was actually Eungien's partner, or lover, and she was trying to find a way to separate Eungien from the blackbody matter. But once she realized she couldn't separate her partner from the blackbody, she began attempting to accelerate or alter the fusion process instead, even going so far as to feed her own body to this Eungien blackbody fusion entity. Her experiments resulted in the creation of a new type of life form that was born of both stellar blackbody matter and archeolune energy, with a capacity for near endless reincarnation. These life forms are the
If only Totore figured this stuff out, bro.
original Kuhenki. Eventually, Maggie's Getty became a part of her own experiment so that she could live alongside her reborn Kuhenki partner. Over time, the Lunar Sea actually became the perfect place for these new black body archeolune energies to rebirth themselves.
Do you know what the crazy thing is, dude? I've always imagined Nibelung as this actual, like, dragon, you know, this winged beast. There is a chance that the Nibelung that we end up seeing, because we likely will end up seeing him, is just one of the like stereotypical dragon people that we saw in Natlan, and he's just like a humanoid dragon king. But the murals, yes, the murals. Are we trusting murals? Exactly. I'm not saying he didn't look like that in the past. I'm just saying when we finally see him, I just don't think it's going to be what we expect Nibelung to look like.
Which turned the Lunar Sea into something akin to Teyvat's primordials.
Gonna look like Xbalanque? That's it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's gonna look like this big fucking evil dragon that everybody expects. Sadly, I would love that, but I just don't know. I would love it, but we'll see.
Themselves, which turned the Lunar Sea into something akin to Teyvat's primordial sea. Now we're going to go over all the ramifications of these discoveries momentarily, but before we do that, we have to talk about what a real stellar blackbody is, because it is a real concept in physics, and Hoyo's choice to reference it here is both important and fascinating in a lot of ways.
Stellar blackbodies are... Oh, interesting. Okay.
So in...
Not like dark matter?
Physics, a black body is a physical entity that absorbs all electromagnetic radiation while simultaneously emitting black body radiation in the form of thermal energy or heat and light. And by absorb, I mean the black body doesn't reflect any electromagnetic radiation. And because a black body absorbs all electromagnetic radiation, a true black body has natural camouflage against certain types of sensors like radar.
Dude. Could the Traveler be like the opposite of a black body, since we can absorb the darkness, which is the abyss, and we are also not affected by certain,
True black body has natural camouflage against...
We have like natural camouflage against Teyvat's fate system, and like data from Ermintel.
Certain types of sensors like radar, because radar utilizes electromagnetic radiation. Now, a black body can take on a lot of different forms. Planets, black holes, stars, and even the cosmic microwave background radiation that's left over from the Big Bang are all considered types of black bodies. Although it is worth noting that a perfect...
Dude, that was a very large rift.
Black body is extremely rare. And these examples are not true black bodies. But despite not being true black bodies, they still fit the criteria well enough to bear the name of black body. So just know that there is some nuance here, but I am going to be referring to them all as black bodies from here on out. Now, of these black body examples, the star best matches the stellar black body Eungien fused with, partly because it's being referenced by name here. Interestingly, stars are as close to a perfect black body as we can practically get, because...
Wait, so... Oh, shit. Wait, was I kind of right? No, right? Surely not.
Because they absorb nearly all electromagnetic radiation while also emitting heat and light. And the more electromagnetic energy you stimulate a star with, the brighter and hotter it gets. This behavior is very similar to what the dragons did when they stimulated the stellar blackbody with Archeolune energy. Archeolune energy is, after all, a type of electromagnetic radiation in the Genshin universe. It's light realm energy. Now, for the purposes of this video, I want you to think of stars as if they have two parts. There's the star's blackbody, which absorbs electromagnetic radiation, which we cannot see, and the star's emitted blackbody radiation, which we can see because...
Dude, this is like the Traveler, though, no? Am I crazy? Am I overthinking this, dude?
As if they have two parts. There's the star's blackbody, which absorbs electromagnetic radiation, which...
Because, like, we could have a black body inside of us, or be a black body, right? And then the part that you can't see is the abyss that we absorb, just like the black body. And then the reflected or transmitted energy is the elemental energy, the light realm energy, what it looks like.
We cannot see, and the star's emitted blackbody radiation, which we can see because it contains visible light. The black...
Bro, there's no way we could be literally the black body that Ungeon brought back, though. The timeline wouldn't add up, right?
Body radiation of a star is generally what we refer to whenever we talk about the color of a star, hence why we describe stars like the sun as yellow or white. But the black body aspect of a star isn't visible because it absorbs visible light, making it far closer in color conceptually to black than it is to white. So colloquially, the part of the star we can perceive with our eyes is made of light, while the part of the star we can't perceive with our eyes is made up of darkness.
True. No, because we replied to a message. No, yeah. Dude, how creepy would it be, though? Hear me out. This is going into like some cosmic horror type shit. Deadass. Imagine we are the stellar black body that Ungeon brought back, and the message was never actually sent by Lumine and Aether, but Lumine and Aether died to stellar black body invasion or something, and because they're information-based life forms, they like mimic other people. That's why we didn't know the Teyvat language, and we're like learning it from Paimon and stuff. So like Aether and Lumine died before the game even started, before they even made it to Teyvat. We're just the stellar black bodies. That'd be kind of funny.
Now, I'm putting an emphasis on the unscientific nature of this simplification here because we're gonna get a little bit philosophical and pseudoscience-y for the rest of this video, and
sick.
I want to make that distinction.
I'm about it.
Okay. Now, this idea that a star is made up of both light and dark is something that I overlooked for a very long time, in spite of all of the hints littered throughout the game. You know, like when the Melazines said that the sun is actually black. But it wasn't until I was exploring Ungeon's spaceship and read his log that I realized why the color of the sun was actually relevant. Before Ungeon completely fused with the stellar blackbody, he left behind a log where he called the stellar blackbody the soul of a star. And that was the line that kind of made everything click for me. Because if...
So the blackbody is the soul, the star, like the visible light, is the body. Oh my god, dude, it's actually adding up. Oh god, this is scary.
We take that statement literally, a lot of things start to make sense. For example, why is Deshret a black star?
Yes! Yes!
Well, we know that at one point he severed his soul from his body, and since Apep ate his body, this black star that she didn't eat might just be a manifestation of Deshret's soul. Which means that Deshret's soul is akin to a stellar blackbody. But before you brace yourself for Deshret glazing, I don't actually think his soul is unique in this regard. I actually think it's quite possible that all souls in Teyvat are technically stellar blackbodies, or
Oh, wait, what?
to put it another way, I think Genshin is operating under the assumption that a person is akin to a star, with their soul being the stellar blackbody and their body being its blackbody radiation. Now, I recognize that this sounds like a bit of a wild assumption at first.
Everybody is kind of crazy. I was thinking the Traveler, maybe Descenders in general, but everybody.
So just suspend your disbelief for a little bit and hear me out.
Okay.
During Zandrone's, I guess I'll call it story quest, she talks about how mechanical life forms like puppets desire a heart. But a heart is also a soul, and both can be converted into pure information and thus preserved. This reminds me a lot of how the stellar blackbody was described as an information-based life form, as well as the...
Chat, be honest here. If we did indeed get to see Nibelung in game, and Nibelung just looked like this type of dragon, right? Humanoid dragon in clothes wearing like a crown or something. Would you prefer that, or would you prefer it to be this dark dragon lord? Disappoint, smash, I would cry, prefer dark dragon lord, dragon is cooler, dark dragon lord, second one. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, because I kind of agree with y'all. I do. Yeah, you'd want him to be presented like a pet. This big fuck-off dragon that you look at and think, okay, either he takes me or he takes me, you know? For me, yes, I'd want the big dragon. However, there is a situation where I could be like, you know what, fair enough, give me the humanoid dragon. And the only situation is that they make him look literally the most badass motherfucker ever, with full-on armor, fucking Giga Chad, dual-wielding claymores or some shit, and introduce him as like the main fucking guy for Genshin Impact 2, Kamuya chapter or some shit. For playable character, free, everybody gets him, you get a nibble-along, you get a nibble-along, you get a nibble-along. We're calling him Munch-along now because it's not a nibble anymore. Maybe not that far, but like, just make it playable, right? If he's a playable dragon, like not a human, like actually looks like a dragon with the scales and horns and shit and wings, like full on, sure, then I'd be okay with it.
The soul of a star. A bit of a bold leap, I know, but you remember how
It's not gonna happen, don't worry, but that's my like predicament.
life form as well as the soul of a star. A bit of a bold leap, I know, but you remember how the Melazines said that the sun was actually black?
Yeah.
Well, this could be an indicator that Melazines actually see the shape of one's soul.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, Melazines do see the world differently. They see the truth of the world, is what they said. Wait, Paimon's soul too? I mean, Paimon was a multicolored balloon with the string stretching beyond the firmament. Paimon's the stellar black body. No, I'm kidding. That is really fucking interesting.
Rather than their physical shape. In other words, they don't see using the same visible light spectrum as humans do.
See? Paimon is just like a little rainbow balloon floating in the air, and her string seems to extend upward to somewhere above the sky itself. This is going to be incredibly important, bro. There's no way it's not. Specifically this, and then the same fucking Melazine says something about the Traveler as well, saying that they're like a world devourer. A devourer of planets or something.
Now, before I go into the ramifications of this assumption, I do have some evidence to back up the claim that people are stars. And it all has to do with Project Lunar Veil and Tevat's firmament.
Okay.
As you may recall, researchers on the moon spliced the genetic information of Ungyen's stellar blackbody with that of the moonshade tree, which then emitted blackbody radiation dubbed the lunar veil when stimulated by Archeolune energy. Now, if stellar blackbodies are souls, then the lunar veil is technically made from mixing souls with light realm energy. Now, we know that researchers loosely
What was the sus dialogue that she
made from
said?
mixing souls with light realm energy.
An amber piece with the two of us inside? Paimon bets it would definitely be the start of any auction. We'd be a one-of-a-kind treasure. That is actually kind of sus.
Now, we know that researchers Lucilim eventually gave the data from the Lunar Veil project to the Heavenly Principles, who then, presumably, used it to modify Irminsul similarly to how Lucilim modified the moonshade trees. This would cause Irminsul to emit an advanced version of the Lunar Veil, which we call the firmament. But for Irminsul to emit a lunar veil, it would need both light realm energy and stellar blackbody matter.
I'm curious where she's going to go with this, because if Irminsul's gone now, would that not mean the firmament technically would dissipate as well? Or
version of the lunar veil, which we call the firmament. But for Irminsul to emit a lunar veil, it would need both light realm energy and stellar blackbody matter.
Yeah.
Light realm energy is obviously supplied by the elemental energy flowing within the ley lines, but based on our current assumptions, stellar blackbody matter would need to be provided by souls. Interestingly, during the early days of the Heavenly Principles' reign, the souls of humans used to get shuttled to the moon. And I think this may have been because the Heavenly Principles was using those souls to develop the advanced lunar veil technology that eventually became the firmament. Because after
Whoa! Jesus, what?
the War of Funerary Flame, souls stopped going to the moon and instead went to Irminsul. Timing-wise, I think that
Oh my god, that adds up so... Oh my god, cock!
this makes sense because the Heavenly Principles and the Dragon researchers intended for the lunar veil and the firmament to protect Tevat and its moons from the abyss. And it was during the War of Funerary Flame when Nibelung returned with the abyss. But we will talk more about the significance of that event a little bit later.
Okay.
It just makes sense for them to try and activate...
Do you know the crazy thing with Ashikai theories, dude? And it's not every theory. Sometimes I get really lost and sometimes I agree 100%. The thing is with Ashikai theories like this one and why I get so invested in it, dude, is because she says things that just make so much sense. Like, this literally is just something that I would never think of, you know? I don't have that brain that instinctively just goes deep enough to figure this shit out. She's got the resources, right? There's a lot of people that research, but she's got the ideas, dude. Fucking giga brain. Because this does make so much sense. The connections that she's making here, and again, my favorite theories are just like this, where you take the knowledge from inside the game instead of like the cultural stuff and the religion stuff and things from outside of the game, from real world events. I really enjoy these theories where they're straight ripped from the game and just sticking two and two together to make it make a perfect amount of sense. My god, it is so good.
Irminsul's firmament right when the abyss appears. So basically, souls got moved into Irminsul after the war, which means that Irminsul now had to ingest a blend of both light realm energy in the form of the elements and souls in the form of information or memories in order to create that firmament.
Yeah.
And we've known since the very beginning of the game that Irminsul does in fact ingest massive quantities of both elemental energy and memories. But we've never really understood why until now. Now, I've been pitching the idea that Irminsul's branches make up the false sky firmament since year one, and boy do I feel validated, because I also said that the Irminsul fruits hanging on those branches
Constellations.
are also the
stars.
stars in the sky. And I based that idea on the Unreconciled Stars event, where a star containing Leonard's memories fell to Tevat from the false sky. And now that we know that memories can be likened to a soul, and that the star that fell from the sky contained memories, we can now say with confidence that the stars in Tevat's sky are in fact souls. And you know, this idea that memories are souls, or at least like your soul is comprised of memories, is probably the reason why the Aranara say death is simply a one-time loss of memories.
Yes, that makes sense. It's just one form of death, right?
When your soul leaves your body, you die. That said, I do wonder if the firmament initially used angels for this purpose, since they were collectively known as the Dawn Stars. And
would also make sense for the whole fallen angels and Nicole's whole teaser here, to be fair.
And as seen in Nicole's trailer, they fell to Earth during the War of Funerary Flame.
Yep.
But I can't prove or refute that, so I'm going to ignore it. But what I will not ignore is the fact that we have actually seen a real soul-based firmament before. Well, we saw the plan for one. Remember Malwika's backup plan to fight against the Abyss?
Oh my god, the net!
In the event that everything went wrong, she was planning to take all of the memories stored within the Night Kingdom and weave them into a giant net-like barrier that would protect Natlan from the Abyss.
Dude, oh my god, again, I just would never correlate the two.
In the context of a soul being made of information and memories, Malwika was literally making a miniature replica of the firmament. And there is yet another reference to a false sky or wall-like barrier around the world made of people that's found in an even weirder location than Natlan's.
This has got to be a book, bro. This has got to be a book.
Archon Quest. It's in this Romurian book called the Anecdota Septentrionalis. It's kind of a twist on some Greek epics like the Iliad and the Odyssey, but there's one scene in this book where the Romurians are sailing to the end of the world. But when they get there, they find a giant wall at the end of the world that's made from hanging people.
Dude, I need people to animate these book stories, bro. You know the Genshin anime, bro? Fuck the original story. Just animate all of these short stories. What the fuck?
And I am pretty darn sure that this is a reference to the firmament. All that said, I don't actually think the Heavenly Principles uses the souls of just anyone in the false sky, especially if we consider the possibility that angels originally took on the roles of those stars. Instead, I think they're using the souls of very specific people, namely Allergenes.
Allergenes, yeah,
I found Nicole's vision story to be rather infuriating when I first read it, because she knows the reason why the Heavenly Principles hands out visions and she refuses to elaborate.
Yeah, she rage baited like fucking crazy in her character profile, bro. Deadass she did.
And to make matters even more confusing, she actively tried to get a vision for ages and ages until it finally appeared. And I couldn't for the life of me understand why she was so desperate to have a vision, especially when we have people like Renee de Petrichor talking about how visions are a bad thing because they tie you to the fate of the world, and how even Nicole recognized how a vision would lead to an, quote, inevitable ending, which, I don't know about you, but it sounds pretty ominous to me.
I mean, inevitable ending doesn't mean good or bad at the end of the day, right? That's how I always took that line. It just means if you're tied to fate, fate has to end. You can't have fate without an ending, because your fate is to never have an ending, I guess. Maybe that is a possibility. I've never seen that, ever. Typically, fate is tied to an ending.
But if the firmament is made of souls, then Nicole's quest for a vision and Renee's aversion to them makes sense, because it means that the souls of the Allergenes are used to power the firmament. Nicole would find it a great honor to be one of the people chosen to protect the planet, whereas Renee kind of wants to protect the planet his own way. Now,
I want to see more of Nicole's... wow, I fucking malfunctioned, bro. The ending scene in her little like hangout thing, right? I want to see more of the observation deck of the world, basically. I want to find out more about that. Where are the others? Who else is doing it?
The argument that Allergenes are the ones who are chosen to power the firmament actually starts with Venti, because Venti describes visions as a more primitive form of a gnosis. And based on everything we've gone over so far, that would actually make visions a physical manifestation of one's soul. See, the term gnosis means...
Kind of bland though, no? I wouldn't want my soul to look the same as everybody else's. I'd want it to look different.
Knowledge, like the true knowledge of the soul. It's something akin to enlightenment. But even that kind of knowledge is technically just information, right? And we've already established that information is akin to the soul, or at least the soul is composed of information or memories. And we also know that a soul is a heart. It's the core of your being, and that matters because in Chinese, the gnosis is called the heart of God. And I think that's because it literally is one. Based on everything we've talked about so far, the 7 gnosis appear to be...
Wait, so she thinks a gnosis is literally a heart of a god? That could be very interesting. I mean, the Saritz is planning to collect all of the hearts of the gods. Rheindotter has eaten a heart of somebody before. Would you class Nibirius as a god? So one heart is missing. I genuinely, dude, like, I have convinced myself now with the amount that I've gone through it that it's basically fucking canon in my head. I have turned my head canon into my own canon, but I'm not going to be disappointed if it's not the case. I just think the Shades have the fucking gnosis. I deadass, especially after that trailer, bro. I deadass just think Renova's got it and she's going to come and fucking try to bargain. Dormammu, I have come to bargain. She's like, give me my kid back. I've got the gnosis. You want that or the kid? She's like, I want the kid. She's like, but the gnosis. And then she's like, well, fine, I'll take the gnosis. And then it just finishes, bro. I don't know.
7 pieces of the third Descender's soul. It's the third Descender's stellar black body matter. Now, Descenders are obviously on a different level when compared to a regular human, so it makes sense to call visions primitive versions of a gnosis, because a gnosis would be the soul of like a god, aka a Descender, whereas a vision would be the soul of a regular human being, and that's why I said visions are the physical manifestation of an Allergene's soul. Interestingly, the message left behind by the stellar blackbody on the moon describes a race of people that had some kind of non-corporeal external organ. Now, at the start of the game,
what?
That had some kind of
The former appears to refer to an organ belonging to this species, though apparently not a corporeal one. The latter may refer to some living creature, to a monster of local legend, though no prior mention of it appears. Note by Ninkigia. The unknown term in this line cannot be reliably inferred. It may be a word denoting the will or the soul, though the context suggests an organ located on the surface of the species' body. So like skin? Well, I think they're saying visions. I think that's what they're saying. I think they're saying the vision is indeed the organ located on the surface of the body. That describes the race who sent the black body message. Yeah, but that's also exactly what Ashika is saying as well, right? We know that dragons were like down there first, but she was also saying earlier, correct me if I'm wrong, there's already been a lot of information here. She was also saying that she thinks that everybody could be like a stellar black body, basically. Dragons did end up saying that humans were like the next in line of evolution, I think. Oh my god, dude, wait, this is actually a fucking insane theory. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm allowed to cock, but this is actually insane.
Non-corporeal external organ. Now, at the start of the game, Venti actually does describe visions as external foci or external organs. And I'm not saying that the stellar black body on the moon was specifically referring to visions as an external organ, but
probably another version, right? Because again, even back in the day, the dragons also had something similar. They had, well, To be fair, I guess that's still technically headcanon, right? We never really found out what they were, but the things that the Traveler had in Natlan that looked like old draconic vision cases.
Quote Hoyo's own words, when
like masterless visions.
coincidences start piling up, they cease to be coincidences.
Yeah, true.
So the way I see it, the Heavenly Principles appears to be forging the stars of the false sky from the souls of humanity, and those stars are then harvested and hung in the sky. This forging process seems to involve having an Archon grant a person a fragment of their elemental mastery. This feels very similar to how you stimulate a black body with electromagnetic radiation in order to get it to glow, so to speak.
So it's technically like, I mean, it's the Archon's decision on how strong every character is. So realistically, you should be blaming the Archons, the respective Archon if your favorite character's weak. It's like Dea, right? The Pyro Archon clearly used up most of their resources early on with people like Bennett and Zhangling, so they just fucking ran out. So they had nothing left for Dea, bro. It actually makes sense.
And that glow is emitted by the vision in the form of elemental energy or light realm power. This might mean that the label of vision or eye of God actually stems from a 5th century theory that eyes actually emitted light. And it also might be a reference to the idiom, eyes are the window to the soul. On a more explicit note, in the Genshin manga, visions did originally have stars inside of
With a triangle around it as well, Ungion's triangle.
them. Perhaps Hoyo removed them from the game later on because they felt it would be a bit too on the nose to leave it in. But this is where things get really interesting because we also know that Irminsul was part of the fate system that the Heavenly Principles implemented. And I think the reason why that system was put into place was to ensure that the firmament remained fully operational at all times. And for that to happen, it
So
would
you mean we need to blame Nuvi for Siegeween? Well, no, Rimuru, because Siegeween had her vision before Nuvi was the one that was granting them.
need a steady supply of souls or allogenes. And if that system were ever to fail or stutter, then the firmament would falter, leaving to that visible and vulnerable to the thing the Heavenly Principles seems to fear the most, the Dark Destroyer, which is probably the Abyss.
Can I just say, I think we're the bad guy. I do think this is going to follow the trope of, like, we're colonizing Teyvat. I don't think we're doing it willingly. I don't think we're doing it understanding what we're doing. But I think the purpose of our journey is to make Teyvat our destination. I think Nebelung might not have been so. I want to know what he learned. I want to know what he learned when he went out and gained the forbidden knowledge. Because what if he learned the truth of what was going to happen in Teyvat and thought, wow, that's a fate worse than death, bro. Fuck this. Or something else. Like, I don't know. I don't think he's as bad as the game so far is making him out to be.
Like we've always had a pretty good sense of what the Abyss is capable of, but I don't think we've ever really been able to pin down what the Abyss actually is.
True.
And it doesn't really help that the Abyss is both a force and a location either, so I'm just going to focus on the Abyss as a force for now, and we'll circle back to the location aspect of it a bit later.
Okay.
Now, as a force, I've personally been of the opinion that the Abyss is effectively the prima materia, or the primordial chaos, a sort of raw base material that's used to create reality. And I think that theory held up pretty well until Alice shared Barbeloth's theory, which claimed that the Abyss was actually a manifestation of the resentment of all unchosen fates. And I thought this was a really weird way to describe the Abyss, because the fate system is unique to Teyvat, but the Abyss is not. The Abyss definitely does exist elsewhere in space, and Skirk can attest to that. And by her own testimony, she refutes the idea that the Abyss is resentful at all. She calls it a force of nature, just like any other. It's neither good nor bad.
I feel like, I mean, even if it is bad, it can still be a force of nature, and it can still be a necessary force of nature, to be honest. It's a trope in a lot of media, especially, and in a lot of, like, actual cultural situations. I think even with yin and yang and such, right? If I'm not mistaken, you need, like, almost an equal amount of good and bad. Yeah, it needs to be a balance.
Forest fire doesn't burn out of malice, after all. So in her view, the Abyss doesn't have any intent either. Now, I've made multiple attempts at reconciling these discrepancies with varying degrees of success, but I am now convinced that there actually are no discrepancies, and that all these things are true simultaneously, and the existence of the stellar blackbody might be able to prove it.
Okay.
If we run with the idea that the stellar blackbody is the soul of a star, then we need to look at the Gnosis again, because the Gnosis should be the soul of the third descender that's split into 7 pieces. But it's important to note that the Gnosis also brings calamities, hence why the Heavenly Principles is called the Lord of the 7 Calamities. Skirk also has a very interesting comment about the Gnosis. She calls them objects of misfortune and disaster, and then she says, quote, "To live is in itself a blessing, but once a person dies, the bonds he once had with this world shall turn to curses." And what I think she meant is that the Gnosis containing the soul of the third descender is actually full of the third descender's resentment. That's the source of the calamities. But that would actually mean that the Abyss is inside the 7 Gnoses, which I know at first blush doesn't make any sense, but this interpretation is actually backed up by Sandrone's story quest, wherein
Dude, oh my god, can you fucking imagine? She resurrects the third descender with the Gnosis, and then all of that abyss is inside of him, and Aether has to purify it, and that's why we did all of this. That would be fucking insane if their goal all along was literally for Aether to become strong enough to purify the abyss from the third descender. Oh my goodness.
she describes the fractured, unused souls left over from the Narcissenkreuz experiments as full
Journey as a whole, or just in Snezhnaya? Journey as a whole. Journey as a whole. I mean, we learned how to purify shit all the way back in Mondstadt, and we've only been getting better at it all the way up to even Natlan.
describes the fractured, unused souls left over from the Narcissenkreuz experiments as full of resentment, and those resentful souls fuse together to make a tulpa. We'll address this tulpa thing later, but if souls are the source of resentment because they are not chosen, then the Abyss must be just a bunch of broken, unchosen souls, right? But then that would imply that the Abyss is just volatile stellar blackbody matter. So blackbody matter that's in an agitated or unstable state. But
Yeah.
that wouldn't make any sense, would it? After all,
No,
there's
that wouldn't make sense in my opinion if it's the full journey. I mean, I think there's more to our full journey, to be fair. I don't think it's just for that end goal. Absolutely. I think that's the Saritsa's end goal, though. What was the purpose of her going after the Gnosis one by one, where we specifically were, if not to, like, hone our skills, but to make us more powerful and train us up for her grand designs, right? Surely.
blackbody matter that's in an agitated or unstable state. But that wouldn't make any sense, would it? After all, there's stellar blackbody matter on the moon. And it's explicitly stated a couple of times that there is no abyssal presence on the moon. Or is there? In the message where Ungin called the stellar blackbody the soul of a star, he also said that that star had been, quote, swallowed by the darkness. And this darkness is heavily implied to be the Abyss, which again is confusing because there is no detectable abyssal presence on the moon. And yet, Ungin brought this stellar blackbody matter that had been swallowed by the darkness back to the moon, so there should, by all accounts, be abyssal presences on the moon. But since there isn't, that means either Ungin somehow purged the Abyss from the blackbody by fusing with it, or the
He lied.
stellar blackbody itself was becoming the Abyss because it was falling into despair. And suddenly things make sense, right? When it's in a stable state, a stellar blackbody is a benign entity. It's a natural force of nature. It's a soul. But when it falls into despair, when it becomes volatile or angry or hostile or resentful, it warps and mutates until it becomes the force that we call the Abyss. And
Very interesting. Oh my goodness, bro. So, also, if it was from the third descender, could it also be us being resentful and what was the specific word she used?
until it becomes the force that we call it an entity. It's a natural force of nature. It's a soul. But when it falls into despair, when it becomes volatile or angry or hostile or resentful...
Hostile and resentful. We would be all of the above after we got exiled to Teyvat and separated from our sibling.
Warps and mutates until it becomes the force that we call the Abyss.
And it's like at the same time now, the Abyss Princess, our Abyss sibling, doesn't seem to be resentful. They seem to have gone through the stages now to acceptance and just accepted the Abyss. Oh my god.
And that's why there's no abyssal presence on the moon. If you still don't believe me, I want you to think about Gosoy Thoth for a minute. You know, the manifestation of the Abyss that we fought in Natlan. Do you think it's a coincidence that Gosoithoth
Black
perfectly
hole.
matches the physical description of the stellar black body matter on the
True.
moon. I mean, they're both round, black, and spiked entities with filament-like ejecta. As I said earlier, when the coincidences start piling up, they cease to be coincidences. But that said, this is still just an assumption. But it's under this assumption that a bunch of things start making a lot more sense, right? Like, obviously, this idea backs up Barbaloth's resentment theory, but it also works with the idea that the abyss is like the primordial chaos from which life is born, because the stellar blackbody matter was a catalyst for the creation of new life on the frost moon. So if we consider stellar blackbody matter to be an inert, stable form of the abyss, then the abyss is also a catalyst for the creation of new life.
God
and we have
damn.
evidence for that as well. See, everything into that is made of light realm energy, so anything physical is composed of the elements since elemental energy is light realm energy.
Yeah.
So if something wants to exist on the physical plane, it's gonna need a body that's made from light. So in the same way, a stellar blackbody needs to ingest electromagnetic radiation in order to emit blackbody radiation, aka light. A human soul, for example, would need to consume a lot of elemental energy so that the soul could emit enough light to create a physical form. In other words, someone's shape or their body is something that's emanated from their soul. And this is likely the reason why the stellar blackbody on the frost moon was said to thirst for the bodies of the dragons, because those were made of light as well. The stellar blackbody wanted to be born into the physical plane, and the abyss exhibits a similar behavior. We often see the abyss rearrange itself into shapes that mirror living beings.
Yeah, dude. And then, oh my god. Wait, dude, I kind of just want to let it cook for a bit because this is fucking crazy. Because this is exactly what I was saying earlier. All of this actually makes sense. Like, you could put this in the next quest and I'd be like, wow, yeah, no, that made sense from the beginning. I just never saw it. Just like previous stuff that we've learned about the moon and shit, bro. Oh my god.
And I'm of the opinion that the abyss does this because it's uncreated material that wants to be created. So as the abyss destroys things
or unchosen fates that want to be chosen
and consumes everything that's made of light, it's effectively trying to stimulate itself with electromagnetic energy so that it can eventually emit black body radiation and thus create a physical form. It is trying to give birth to itself. You can kind of think of this process like the abyss is a sentient pool of water that's swallowing up granules of sand, thinking that there will eventually be enough sand to form a container that will hold all the water. But the water lacks the ability to properly shape the sand into a vessel, and all the sand granules end up getting lost in the water instead. Now, tulpas, like the ones found in Sandrone's quest, also mimic this same behavior. The tulpa in that quest was made up of all of the souls discarded by the Narcissenkreuz Ordo that had merged together, and they had somehow collectively managed to accumulate enough hydro energy to cobble together an unstable physical form. That's what the abyss is doing. That's probably what the stellar blackbody was trying to do. Now, the thing about tulpas is that they're technically thought forms or astral projections, which is exactly what it sounds like. They're thoughts given forms.
Yeah.
And both in-game and in occultism, tulpas also go by the name of egregores, and you can think of these as more specific types of thought forms. They're like collective entities or collective consciousnesses.
God, this quest was so cool, dude.
Now, tulpas and egregores can become real beings if and when the right conditions are met. And the description for the hydrotulpa even says as much, claiming that a tulpa is made of countless wills that are dissolved in water, which, like the universe, was full of souls that wished to be born. Isn't that what I just said about the abyss? That it's a mass of souls that wants to be born into the world? That means by this definition that the abyss is also a type of tulpa or egregore. It's a thought form that wants to become real. It's just like a stellar black body. It's just an angry stellar black body. And if that's true, then the location that we refer to as the abyss should be a cognitive realm or a thought space, not too dissimilar to that of the Night Kingdom.
I mean, yeah, right? Like I said as well, with the equal kind of things with quote-unquote good and evil and void realm and light realm and stuff, it's like, I always think of it, even like the moon, right? You got the light side of the moon and the dark side of the moon. Even like Tevat, the planet, you got the light side of Tevat and the dark side of Tevat. It's perfectly balanced. The abyss itself is obviously not just going to be the dark side of the moon or the dark side of Tevat. That's just obviously not going to be the case. But it could, like a lot of people have said before, just be a reflection of TVAT, just encompassed by fucking depression and the abyss, right? I think it kind of goes both ways. A lot of people, this is going to sound like a really weird analogy here, but people say like you're a product of your environment, right? Or your environment's a product of you. If you work every single day in a messy ass room, your mind's probably going to be messy as well, right? And vice versa. If you're like depressed and stuff, your room's probably going to become messy. If you're the abyss and you're the unchosen fates, the world doesn't want you. Nobody wants you. You're depressed. You're angry. You just want to live. The product of your environment is also going to reflect that. And the same goes for the other way around. If your environment is telling you you don't belong here, get out of here, it's just going to be the exact same thing. And that's why it looks like this. If the abyss is in concept, the unchosen fates, but it's also like, if it is a force and a concept, why couldn't the concept mimic the force, right? If the force is mimicking other people that it wants to like be a soul, why couldn't the abyss mimic Teyvat? In the sense of like the abyss just wants to be a livable place. Like the abyss just wants to be like Teyvat. It wants the greenery, it wants life, it wants people to live there. Maybe it is just the yearning, right?
That we refer to as the abyss should be a cognitive realm or a thought space, not too dissimilar to that of the Night Kingdom. Because like it was in the Night Kingdom where we learned about how thoughts can become things and how things can be encoded as thoughts. And all this leads me to conclude that the soul is also technically the mind, but not the brain, making the abyss a very angry hive mind that's technically just lacking leadership. And in that context, forbidden knowledge becomes a sort of collective knowledge that's shared by the souls that form the abyss.
True. Light needs darkness to shine, though. Without it, how can light shine? You're entirely right, and this is exactly what I was saying, where there needs to be a balance, right? Because also, you're right when you say light needs darkness to shine, because then it can't light anything up. But also, darkness needs light as well, right? Because otherwise, there's no shadows to cast, for example. Like, you need both. You can't just have one or the other.
It makes perfect sense to me why exposure to all of this would drive someone mad. I mean, that's a lot of information, memories, and emotions being poured into a vessel that's not meant to process all of that.
Yep,
and I'm not trying to change the subject abruptly, but it was at this moment when I was writing this that I realized Voyager also split her mind from her body, kind of like Deshret. And it was only her mind, or her soul, I guess, that entered Teyvat and also possessed a vessel made of light while her real body was on some other planet. Now, I know Voyager isn't confirmed to be a descender, and I'm not going to try and argue that she is, but I do think the idea of her being a stellar blackbody, astral projection type entity to be very interesting in the context of descenders, because the first descender, the Heavenly Principles, is called a primordial human, and during the Temple of Space quest, we learned about the myth of the primordial human. Allegedly, they were born when the powers of light and dark mixed. Based on everything I've laid out today, that suggests that the Heavenly Principles is likely composed of both a light-based vessel and a stellar black body soul, or...
I feel like the Heavenly Principles is going to be an amalgamation of like perfection. It's going to be the embodiment of perfection, or what they want it to be, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be a perfect amount of light and dark that maybe just got out of hand one time and fucked shit up.
Core. And if I'm right about the third descender soul being split into the 7 Gnosis, then they too would have been a vessel full of light with a black body soul, right? And if that's true, then we should really pay attention to the fact that the Traveler, the 4th descender, has the ability to slurp up a near infinite amount of abyssal energy. That suggests that they have the ability to contain a near infinite amount of souls in their body. And I think that includes the souls of other descenders, hence why the Gnosis was able to enter their body. And
True.
Technically speaking,
I was just about to say, I do think Capitano's storyline will kind of not necessarily go hand in hand with Ether's, but I think there's very much a reason for this, because I don't think it's going to end well for this. I don't want to jump the gun, I guess. I think we will end up doing something very similar to Capitano.
This ability of becoming a vessel that can house a near infinite amount of souls would make the Traveler, and thus all descenders, Tulpas. A thought given real form, but also a collective consciousness. Which is fascinating, because when Rene tried to make himself into a descender, he also turned himself into a Tulpa, a vessel for countless souls. And I would be remiss not to mention the fact that Rene once said that a descender
god, it just makes perfect sense, dude. I've never heard an Ashikai theory that literally just makes perfect sense. There's no rebuttal, dude.
Descender needed to have the will to rival that of a world. But I'm starting to think that what he meant by that was that a Descender must possess a will powerful enough to maintain their sense of self and control, even when their vessel contains enough souls to make up an entire world.
Wait, say that again?
And the fact that Renee once said that a Descender needed to have the will to rival that of a world.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to think that what he meant by that was that a Descender must possess a will powerful enough to maintain their sense of self and control, even when their vessel contains enough souls to make up an entire world.
And then Signora's plan. I mean, Saritsa's plan is to create a new world. Signora's resting place will be the entirety of the old world, bro. Oh my god. I don't know, man. I am actually with it here.
Right now, Nibelung is actually a viable candidate for the title of second Descender, and I've been wondering if he actually split his soul from his body and
God, I hope so.
astral projected into space like Voyager did. If so, then it would make sense why he
Oh, this is interesting. I never thought about Nibelung astral projecting. Splitting the soul? Yes. Astral projecting after doing so.
enough souls to make up an entire world. And that's a really interesting concept because right now, Nibelung is actually a viable candidate for the title of second Descender, and I've been wondering if he actually split his soul from his body and astral projected into space like Voyager did. If so, then it would make sense why he appeared black when he returned. His returning form would have just been his soul, his stellar black body. And if he was unable to return to his original vessel for whatever reason, it would make sense if he became so enraged at this fact that he drove himself mad. But it would also mean that Nibelung didn't bring the Abyss back with him from space. He actually became the Abyss.
Ooh.
And that concludes all my thoughts on how the stellar black body connects a bunch of
I quite like the idea that the Abyss lives inside everybody, to be honest. Like the whole, especially inside Ether. And oh, dude, there's so much about this I want to dive back into.
Genshin's world-building dots.
Jesus.
Okay, maybe that's not all my thoughts. But we're also near the end of the video, and I don't really have like a super solid conclusion for this video. I really just wanted to connect a bunch of dots because I thought the connections themselves were the most interesting thing that I took away from this moon quest. And there are a lot more connections I could make, but I'm only gonna list off a few others in no real particular order. First off, I want to note that the events on the moon are actually very reminiscent of the story in Men of Lithin. The cognitive
No, not again.
hazard, for example,
Get C-3PO off my goddamn screen, bro.
that New Earth created is very similar to the fog of ignorance in the book, and the idea of turning life forms into information-based Lithin is very similar to both phlogistonization and the work of Magi's Getty on the moon.
True.
And the process of phlogistonization and converting people into stellar blackbody matter was actually compared literally and explicitly on the moon in some readings. I thought that was actually really cool. I didn't expect the book to come up again, and now I'm thinking it's probably going to come up at least one more time in the near future. It also occurred to me when I was writing the last part of this theory that, technically speaking, Ungian is also a primordial human equivalent for the Kuhenki. Because, you know, he was the
True,
first
he was the first.
Kuhenki
Yeah, he was. Oh my god, bro, he was.
to be born of light and darkness.
Yep.
A primordial Kuhenki born of Archeoloon and stellar blackbody matter. And what I find super funny about this is that the Kuhenki are actually lunar melazines. Not only are they both bunnies, moon bunnies and sea bunnies respectively, but both species were born when light realm energy came into contact with abyssal
Oh my god, true, Alinus.
energy, or rather, stellar blackbody matter. And now that I think about it, I think the same is true of the Kuhenki and Nodcry. Like, we know that Columbina was born from a pool of primordial seawater, but the timing of her birth actually suggests that the flood of abyssal energy that was released during the Conrian Cataclysm
This is too much.
might have actually triggered the
Holy
conditions
shit,
for her
dude.
birth. Stellar blackbody matter collided with light realm energy. And then
What
she
the
made moon
fuck?
spirit rabbits from her own body. I don't know, I just thought that was neat. But
It's creepy. After watching the video, it gave me an idea that the Abyss in Teyvat is the Abyss that Nibelung brought back, and that's why the Heavenly Principles uses the nails to suppress Nibelung's abyssal body. I didn't quite get that, to be honest. I didn't quite get that. I feel like that was the original theory, but this is kind of brought up quite a few opposing points to that, which is interesting.
But I think that's enough for now. So I'm gonna leave the rest of this connect the dot puzzle to you guys. Run with it, go, have fun, be free! And with Snezhnaya just around the corner, maybe this theory will live on in perpetuity and maybe it will get refuted almost instantly. I don't know.
It could. Literally, in 7.0, they could literally go, yeah, that was fucking stupid, wasn't it? Boom. Stellar Blackbody is still here. The Sarita has it under her pillow. Like, it could just be wrong. But it's a really good theory.
Oh, we'll see. It's very possible that stellar blackbody matter is just not important at all, and I've just made a bunch of really unnecessary connections. Before I go, I just want to say thank you to all my channel members for supporting my nonsense. You guys are amazing, so thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I've got more theories in the oven, so stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye for now.
Goddamn. Hell yeah, brother man. Hell yeah. That was a good-ass video, bro. This was a really solid one for me. This was my favorite Ashikai theory, personally.